The unexpected connection. Oliver Sinclair adjusted his custom-tailored jacket as he surveyed the Grand Pavilion. His annual Tech Foundation gala had drawn the expected crowd. Silicon Valley executives, venture capitalists, and politicians all mingling under crystal chandeliers. At 42, Oliver had mastered the art of these events. Strategic handshakes, practiced smiles, and precisely timed exits. Tonight, however, felt particularly hollow. "Mr. Sinclair, your speech is scheduled in 20 minutes, his assistant Dominic reminded him. Oliver nodded, eyes drifting across the room. "Same faces, same conversations." "That's networking," Dominic replied with practiced efficiency. The crowd parted momentarily, revealing a woman Oliver hadn't noticed before. She wore a simple navy dress, elegant but clearly not designer, and was arranging information packets at a display about clean water initiatives. Unlike everyone else who seemed to be performing, she moved with genuine purpose. "Who's that?" Oliver asked. Dominic followed his gaze. "Dr. Nora Ellis, environmental scientist. She's volunteering tonight, insisted on helping despite being one of the grant recipients." Something about her drew Oliver across the room. As he approached, Nora looked up, hazel eyes widening slightly in recognition before returning to her task. "Dr. Ellis," Oliver said, extending his hand. "I'm Oliver Sinclair." "I know." She shook his hand firmly. "Your foundation's work is impressive, though I have thoughts about your sustainable tech implementation timeline." Oliver blinked, unused to such directness. "Most people start with flattery." "I'm not most people," she replied, a slight smile softening her words. "And you get enough flattery without my contribution." For the first time that evening, Oliver laughed genuinely. "Fair assessment. Tell me about these implementation concerns." As Nora outlined practical challenges with his foundation's approach to water purification technology, Oliver found himself captivated not just by her expertise but by her authenticity. She spoke about communities, not opportunities. People, not profits. "You're passionate about this," he observed. "Shouldn't we all be? It's only the future of our planet," she responded, then paused. "I'm being too direct, aren't I? My sister says I need a filter at these events." "No," Oliver said, surprising himself. "It's refreshing." Their conversation continued until Dominic appeared, nervously clearing his throat. "Sir, your speech—" Oliver had completely lost track of time. As he reluctantly excused himself, something impulsive overtook him. In full view of his peers and board members, he turned to Nora. "Dr. Ellis is the only person here who hasn't tried to sell me something tonight," he announced, loud enough for nearby clusters to hear. "Perhaps we should all take notes." Whispers immediately erupted. Dominic looked mortified. Nora's cheeks flushed, but she held Oliver's gaze steadily. Later, after delivering a speech that felt mechanical compared to their conversation, Oliver found Nora preparing to leave. "You caused quite a stir," she said. "Did I make you uncomfortable?" "No," she replied thoughtfully. "But I wonder why you did it." Oliver considered this. "Because for 15 minutes, I wasn't Sinclair Technologies or the Billionaire. I was just having a conversation that mattered." Nora studied him. "And that's rare for you?" Increasingly so. She reached into her bag and handed him a worn business card. "If you want more conversations that matter, I'm leading a restoration project at Coastal Heights this weekend. No tuxedos allowed." As she walked away, Oliver held the card, realizing with strange certainty that his carefully ordered world had just shifted irrevocably. Beyond facades, the morning sun cast long shadows across Coastal Heights as Oliver parked his Tesla, the least ostentatious vehicle he owned, beside a row of weathered pickup trucks and practical sedans. Exchanging his usual business attire for jeans and a simple button-down felt like donning a disguise, though he wondered if he was finally removing one instead. Nora spotted him from the volunteer registration table, momentarily surprised before a smile crossed her face. "You actually came." "I'm a man of my word, Dr. Ellis," Oliver replied, accepting the volunteer badge she handed him. "It's Nora here. We don't stand on ceremony when we're about to get muddy." The restoration site overlooked the Pacific. where a team of volunteers was already working to remove invasive plants and prepare the soil for native species. Oliver found himself assigned to Nora's team, digging alongside college students and retirees who treated him as just another pair of hands. "Your technique needs work," Nora observed, demonstrating how to properly plant seedlings. Her fingers worked the soil with practiced precision, her passion evident in every movement. "These coastal grasses will help prevent erosion and provide habitat for endangered butterflies." By midday, Oliver's expensive watch was caked with dirt, and sweat dampened his shirt. Yet he felt more invigorated than after any corporate acquisition or successful product launch. "Why did you really invite me here?" he asked during their lunch break, sitting on a fallen log away from the others. Nora considered him thoughtfully. "Honestly, I wanted to see if the man who made that declaration at the gala was real or just having a momentary rebellion." "And your verdict?" "Still deliberating," she replied with a teasing smile. "But I'm leaning toward genuinely complicated." Over the following weeks, Oliver found himself increasingly drawn to Nora's world. She showed him community gardens in underserved neighborhoods, introduced him to families benefiting from clean water initiatives, and challenged his perspective on how technology could serve humanity rather than simply advancing for its own sake. Their outings didn't go unnoticed. Paparazzi captured them leaving a local farmer's market, and speculation erupted online about Oliver Sinclair's environmental activist girlfriend. Corporate board members expressed concerns about his new associations, affecting shareholder confidence. "I'm sorry about the attention," Oliver said as they sat in a small coastal cafe, their faces partially hidden by menus after spotting a photographer outside. "This isn't what you signed up for." "I don't remember signing up for anything," Nora replied, though her light tone couldn't hide her discomfort with the scrutiny. Oliver reached across the table, hesitating before touching her hand. "I can back off, give you space until this dies down." Nora turned her palm upward, meeting his. "Is that what you want?" "No," he admitted. "These past weeks have been... I feel like I'm waking up after a very long sleep." "That sounds terribly dramatic," she teased, but her eyes softened. "Though I understand. My work has always given me purpose, but lately I've found myself looking forward to these conversations with you. It's unexpected." As they left the cafe, braving the photographer who had been joined by two more, Oliver made another impulsive decision. Instead of ducking into his waiting car, he took Nora's hand and walked openly down the boardwalk. "What are you doing?" she asked, tension in her shoulders. "Being honest," he replied. "Let them see. I'm tired of hiding behind carefully crafted images." That evening, as headlines about their relationship proliferated, Oliver received a call from his father, Richard Sinclair, Chairman Emeritus of Sinclair Technologies. "What are you playing at, Oliver?" his father demanded. "First that scene at the gala, now these photos." "The board is questioning your judgment. For the first time in years, I'm using my own judgment instead of weighing every decision against stock prices. This woman has a name and a doctorate," Oliver interrupted, "and she's showing me a world that exists beyond our bubble." After ending the call, Oliver gazed out at the city lights below his penthouse. His phone buzzed with a message from Nora. "Just saw the photos online. You okay with all this?" The simplicity of her concern touched him. Instead of texting back, he called her, his decision already made. "I want you to know something," he said when she answered. "Whatever happens next, meeting you has changed everything, and I'm not turning back." Weathering storms, the invitation to Richard Sinclair's annual summer gathering arrived with pointed timing. For 20 years, Oliver had attended the exclusive Hampton Estate event solo, networking with industry titans amid calculated luxury. The handwritten note at the bottom read simply, "Bring your scientist friend. Time we met." "It's a terrible idea," Nora said, pacing Oliver's living room after he extended the invitation. 3 months into their relationship, she had become comfortable in his space, though she maintained her modest apartment across town. "Your father clearly disapproves of me. This is either an ambush or a test." "Probably both," Oliver admitted. "But hiding you away only reinforces his perception that this is temporary or shameful. It's neither." The weekend arrived with perfect weather and imperfect circumstances. Nora, wearing a borrowed dress that she insisted was excessive for a barbecue, gripped Oliver's hand as they approached the sprawling oceanfront property. Barbecue is a relative term, Oliver murmured as uniformed staff circulated with champagne on silver trays. For the Sinclairs, it means lobster and imported wine served on monogram napkins. Richard Sinclair, tall and imposing at 70, intercepted them before they reached the terrace. "Oliver, finally!" His gaze settled on Nora with clinical assessment. "And Dr. Ellis, your work on microplastic filtration is quite impressive, despite its limited commercial applications." "Limited commercial applications don't equate to limited value, Mr. Sinclair," Nora replied evenly, "though I appreciate you researching my work." "I research all potential threats to my family's interests," Richard responded with a cold smile. Oliver tensed. "Father, us just establishing clarity," Richard cut him off. "Please join the gathering. Congressman Williams was asking after you." As they navigated the party, Nora encountered thinly veiled condescension from board members' spouses and probing questions about her environmental activism. Oliver remained protectively close, his jaw tightening with each interaction. "They think I'm after your money," Nora whispered after a particularly pointed exchange with Oliver's former fiancée, Vanessa. "They can't conceive of relationships built on anything else," he replied, guiding her toward the gardens. "It's why my marriage to Vanessa ended before it began. We were merging assets, not lives." In the relative privacy of the rose garden, Nora's composure finally cracked. This was a mistake. "I don't belong in this world, Oliver." "Neither do I anymore," he admitted. "But I belonged even less before I met you." Their moment was interrupted by Dominic, urgency in his expression. "Sir, there's a situation requiring your immediate attention." In Richard's study, Oliver found his father with the company's legal counsel. On the screen was a leaked proposal from Oliver to redirect 30% of Sinclair Technologies' research budget toward sustainable energy solutions, a plan he'd been carefully developing but hadn't yet presented, officially. "Explain yourself," Richard demanded. "It's the future of the company," Oliver stated firmly, "and the right direction ethically." "It's financial suicide," countered the lawyer. "Shareholders will revolt. This has her influence written all over it." "Nora hasn't seen this proposal," Oliver said. "These are my decisions based on market research and personal conviction." When he returned to find Nora, she was engaged in intense conversation with Dr. Westfield, a leading climatologist and Richard's friend. To Oliver's surprise, they were laughing. "Your Dr. Ellis just systematically dismantled my position on carbon capture technology," Westfield explained, seeming more impressed than offended. "Brilliant mind. Reminds me of your mother." The comparison struck Oliver deeply. His mother, a biochemist before becoming Richard's wife, had abandoned her career after marriage, a sacrifice that had embittered her until her death 10 years ago. Later, as they drove back to the city in tense silence, Nora finally spoke. "Your father cornered me while you were gone. He offered to fund my research lab completely if I encouraged you to step back from whatever environmental initiatives you're planning at Sinclair Technologies." Oliver gripped the steering wheel tighter. "What did you tell him?" "That he should be proud his son has developed a conscience," she replied. "And that I don't use relationships as leverage." "I'm sorry," Oliver said, the weight of the day settling on him. "Don't be," Nora answered, her voice softening. "For the first time, I understand what I'm getting into with you. The question is, are we strong enough for this?" Oliver looked at her, suddenly certain amid all the uncertainty. "We are. But there's something you should know about my past before we go any further." Hidden truth's rain lashed against the windows of Oliver's penthouse as he poured 2 glasses of wine. Nora waited on the sofa, tension evident in the set of her shoulders. The Hamptons' confrontation had marked a turning point, one that demanded complete honesty. "Before I took over Sinclair Technologies," Oliver began, "I was the company's chief negotiator. My specialty was acquiring smaller companies with promising technology, then dismantling them for their patents and intellectual property. Nora accepted the wine, but didn't drink. That's standard corporate strategy." "The methods weren't standard," he continued. 10 years ago, there was a small firm developing water filtration technology similar to what you're working on now, Greenstream. They refused our offer, so I orchestrated a campaign to tank their funding. Planted stories questioning their research, pressured investors, and eventually drove them to bankruptcy. Understanding dawned in Nora's eyes. The founder, Dr. Amelia Jackson. She took her own life 3 months later. The silence that followed felt endless. Nora finally set down her untouched wine. Why are you telling me this now? Because the board has evidence that your research builds on Jackson's work. They're suggesting your interest in me is about revenge or justice for her. Oliver met her gaze directly. And because I need you to know who I was before you decide if I'm someone worth loving. Nora stood abruptly, moving to the window. Did you know? When we met at the gala? No. Dominic discovered the connection last week. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Amelia was my mentor in graduate school. Her death nearly made me abandon my research. The revelation hit Oliver like a physical blow. Nora, I need time, she interrupted, gathering her coat. This isn't something I can process while looking at you. After she left, Oliver remained motionless until dawn broke. When his phone finally rang, it wasn't Nora but the board chairperson, informing him of an emergency meeting to discuss his leadership. 3 days passed without word from Nora. Oliver threw himself into preparing for the board challenge, working through nights in his office rather than returning to an empty penthouse haunted by recent memories. On the morning of the board meeting, as Oliver reviewed his strategy one final time, his assistant announced an unexpected visitor. Professor Diana Russell, head of environmental sciences at Berkeley. Dr. Ellis asked me to deliver this, the older woman said, placing a thumb drive on his desk. She said you'd understand what to do with it. The drive contained comprehensive research on sustainable technology implementation, financial projections, case studies, and market analyses demonstrating how environmental initiatives could become profitable within 5 years rather than the 20 the board projected. Where is she? Oliver asked. Considering a research position in New Zealand, Professor Russell replied. A 3-year commitment. She leaves tomorrow. The board meeting became a battlefield of numbers and projections. Oliver presented Nora's research alongside his proposal, systematically addressing each objection with data rather than idealism. By meeting's end, he had secured a slim majority vote to proceed with a modified version of his sustainability initiatives. His father cornered him afterward. You won this round, but at what cost? That woman has changed you. She helped me remember who I wanted to be before you taught me that profit margins mattered more than principles, Oliver replied. But the choice to change was mine. As evening fell, Oliver drove to Coastal Heights, where they had first worked together. The restoration site had transformed. Native grasses now swayed in the breeze, butterflies fluttered between new plantings, and the erosion had begun to reverse. He found Nora sitting on their log, watching the sunset. Professor Russell delivered your research, he said, keeping distance between them. It saved the project. Thank you. I didn't do it for you, she replied softly. I know. You did it for the work. Oliver gazed out at the ocean. I can't undo what I did to Amelia Jackson, but I can ensure her vision finally succeeds through your research. Nora turned to face him. I'm not staying to see it happen. New Zealand, he nodded. Professor Russell told me. It's a remarkable opportunity, Nora said, and maybe the distance would be good for both of us. Oliver felt the weight of her decision. Before you go, I need you to know something. Meeting you didn't just change my perspective on business. It made me confront who I've become. Whether or not you can forgive me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worthy of the second chance you gave me. As twilight deepened around them, Nora finally asked the question that would determine everything. If I leave, what happens to all of this? The initiatives, the changes at Sinclair Technologies? They continue, Oliver said without hesitation. This isn't conditional on us. It's who I am now. Redefining success. 18 months separated their farewell at Coastal Heights from the moment Oliver stepped off the small charter plane onto New Zealand soil. His journey, 14 hours of commercial flights followed by the puddle jumper to this remote research station, had given him ample time to question his decision. The Southern Alps created a dramatic backdrop for the modest cluster of buildings that comprised the Wellington Foundation's Marine Conservation Center. Oliver adjusted his backpack, feeling conspicuously out of place despite his casual clothing. A young researcher approached. "Mr. Sinclair? Dr. Ellis is expecting you. This way, please." He followed through the compound, noting solar arrays, rainwater collection systems, and the elegant functionality of a facility designed to minimize environmental impact while maximizing scientific output. Sinclair Technologies had become a major donor, though Oliver had carefully ensured his personal involvement remained hidden from Nora. She was working in a laboratory overlooking the ocean, hair pulled back, completely absorbed in adjusting equipment. For a moment, Oliver simply watched her, remembering the first time he'd been struck by her focused intensity at the gala. "Your microplastic filtration system is being implemented in 17 coastal communities now," he said when she finally looked up. Surprise, then caution crossed her features. "Oliver, I didn't expect you to deliver the quarterly report in person." "The board insisted someone inspect our investment," he replied with a small smile. "I volunteered." Nora set down her tools. "That's a long way to travel for a site inspection." "I had other motivations." Their conversation moved to the beach as afternoon sun bathed the landscape in golden light. Oliver described the transformation at Sinclair Technologies, the sustainable initiatives now generating both environmental benefits and unexpected profits, the corporate culture shift, and his father's reluctant admission that the new direction had merit. "Emilia would be proud," Nora said quietly. "Her work lives on." "We dedicated the new research center to her," Oliver added. "Her family attended the opening." They walked in companionable silence until Nora finally addressed the unspoken question. "Why are you really here, Oliver?" He stopped, turning to face her. "I received your research papers, all 8 of them. I've read each one at least 3 times. You're following my work." "I'm following you," he admitted. "Not physically, until now, but keeping track of your progress, your discoveries. I wanted to know you were thriving." Nora studied him. "And Sinclair Technologies? The board couldn't have been happy about your extended absence." "I stepped down as CEO 6 months ago," Oliver revealed. "Promoted Dominic, actually. He's surprisingly effective. I've stayed on as chairman, focusing on long-term strategy rather than day-to-day operations." "That's unexpected." "I've been reevaluating success," Oliver explained. "Building something meaningful feels more important now than controlling everything." As sunset approached, they reached a decision point, both in their walk and their conversation. "My contract here ends in 3 months," Nora said suddenly. "I've been offered a permanent position, but I'm also considering options closer to home." "What's influencing your decision?" Oliver asked carefully. Nora met his gaze directly. "Honestly, these 18 months have given me clarity. The work here is vital, but I miss the direct community impact we were creating together. And I miss," she paused, "the conversations that challenged both of us." Oliver took a chance, closing the distance between them. "I've established a foundation focusing on implementing environmental solutions in vulnerable communities. It needs a scientific director who understands both the research and the human elements." "Are you offering me a job, Mr. Sinclair?" Nora asked, a smile playing at her lips. "I'm offering you a partnership," he corrected. "Equal voices, shared vision. No boardroom politics or corporate constraints." As stars began appearing above them, Oliver added softly, "I'm also offering myself, still flawed, still learning, but completely certain that any success without you feels hollow." Nora reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "You came all this way without knowing if I'd even want to see you." "Some risks are worth taking," Oliver replied. Their kiss held the promise of reconnection, of beginnings built on honest foundations. When they finally separated, Nora whispered, We'll need a better name than the Sinclair Ellis Foundation. Too corporate. Oliver laughed, the sound carrying across the darkening beach. What about second chances? That's really what we're offering. To communities, to the environment, and to each other, Nora added, looking up at him with clear eyes that had once seen through his carefully constructed facade to the person he could become. As they walked back toward the research station, plans and possibilities unfolding between them, Oliver reflected on the journey from that first gala. Success, he had finally learned, wasn't measured in acquisitions or innovations, but in the courage to recognize authentic connection in a world of careful calculation and the wisdom to never let it go.